When will the pain go away? When will it stop? I'm Ross. This is Artur's Fan Club. And yeah, man, this video is gonna suck. Okay, we have to talk about the loss. We got to talk about two losses: the loss of Patrick Williams and the loss to the New York Knicks. So please consider subscribing if you're new here. Usually things aren't so somber, and make sure to hit a like on the video. The like helps me. It's not indicative of the fact that you like the situation, because there is nobody out there who likes the situation right now. Guys, Patrick Williams, if you have not heard the news yet, is hurt. His left wrist, I believe it is, on the dunk attempt on Mitchell Robinson that we'll get to. We will talk about that play in depth here in a minute. But real quick, I do want to shout out the video that I posted the other day of my trip to Chicago for the Bulls home opener. That was a ton of fun. I lost my voice. I caught a cold. I'm still recovering from it. Excuse me if I start yakking up during this video. Hopefully that'll get addressed in post-production. But make sure to go check out that video. It was a little different. It's kind of a vlog style. Just had a little fun with it. Had some footage left over and wanted to make a little montage for you guys. So go check that out. But back to present day Chicago Bulls. Oh, it was all good just a week ago, wasn't it? Oh, it was all good just a week ago. Present day Chicago Bulls, things feel, not gonna lie, a little bleak. It's not doom and gloom over here for me, and I'll explain why. But it does suck to see Patrick Williams out for the rest of the regular season. Now, it's a 4 to 6 month timeline on that injury, so there is a door open, a possibility that he could be back come the playoffs, which, this team has playoff aspirations. That should be on the table, which would be great. We're talking about a guy who's 20 years old. Now, I have read that this injury is pretty damn serious. He's torn ligaments that could cause long-term damage and loss of feeling in his wrist. So not good at all. And I say that with a little caveat of, well, he is 20 years old. And obviously there is no good time for a devastating injury, but at 20 years old, probably the best time for it to happen. I think the play, let's talk about the play a little bit, and I'm not going to show it for you here, but it's easy to find. Just go to Twitter. It's on my Twitter, twitter.com/ArtursFanClub. So I'm not going to go out on a limb and call Mitchell Robinson a dirty player. I think he's a stupid, reckless player. I think this play was incredibly reckless. Patrick Williams was already in the air. There was no chance of Mitchell Robinson getting to the ball. And I think there was some Knicks fans saying, well, he was going for the block. There was no chance he was going for the block. He was not going for the ball. He was going for the foul. As soon as he decided to jump, he made the decision to go for the foul. Because he just had no opportunity. He had no shot at that ball. It looked like he got beat. He was frustrated, and he took a hard foul that turned into a clothesline, basically. I doubt that he had any intention to hurt Patrick Williams, but he was definitely frustrated, and he definitely made a boneheaded decision that ended up hurting Patrick Williams and costing him a season. So that is reckless. That is careless. That has no place in basketball. Not a basketball play, what he did. They don't teach you to get up in the armpit of a defender, of a ball handler when you're trying to foul them, or trying to block them rather. So just a shitty play that shouldn't happen. And I don't want to hear Knicks fans arguing that this and that. Patrick Williams is out for the season. Okay. No matter how you look at it, it was a shitty play. If you want to say it wasn't dirty, okay, that's fine. Maybe it wasn't dirty. And I don't think it was intentional by any means. It was stupid. It was careless, is what it was. And we should all be able to just admit that as adults, because it was dumb. Okay, so that's the play. Credit to Patrick Williams. He came back and hit the free throws, but just still no place in basketball for that. Lineup options in the absence of Patrick Williams. We know that Derrick Jones Jr. has yet to see regular season minutes for the Bulls. We know that Tony Bradley has been used sparingly. It sucks because Patrick was putting together an actually really decent game against the Knicks. And I'll get into some Knicks recap here in a minute. But just hate to see it for a guy like Patrick who was coming along, and we had such high hopes for this season. So looking at the options to replace him, you're going to have to kind of open up the rotation a little bit, in my opinion, because you're going to have to replace him by committee. You can't just, you're already giving Javonte Green bench minutes. You were already giving Ayo Dosunmu bench minutes. You're going to have to open it up to Derrick Jones Jr. and Tony Bradley to make up some of those minutes that you're losing in the starting lineup. You're losing a starter. You're losing 30 plus minutes there. So you have to find multiple guys who are going to be ready to contribute and come in and give you solid minutes either at the wing or more of the power forward spot. And the other thing that sucks about losing Pat is we were testing him out at the 5 because our front court depth is already so depleted. We needed someone to come in and play a little bit of backup 5, and now we don't have that. So another piece of the puzzle that we miss with Patrick Williams. I think Javonte Green is our best option coming into the starting lineup because we saw what he did in the preseason. I think he plays taller than he actually is. I know there's some concerns about his height. I really am not concerned about that. Kind of like Thad Young last season. He can play the 4. We've seen, he's proven it. He can play the 4. Obviously not ideal, but nothing in this situation is ideal. And I think Javonte brings the right kind of energy, rebounding, even aggressiveness on offense that maybe some would say we were lacking a little bit with Pat, and as far as offensively. So Javonte, I feel like, is a great fit for the starting lineup. There's a couple other options. You could go Caruso, you could go small, slide Caruso into the starting lineup and have DeMar play the 4. Or you could go big and you could have Alizé Johnson play the 4 and kind of run, a similarly tall lineup that you were running with Patrick Williams, and kind of let Alizé play that similar role of like power forward / rim protector that we were kind of asking Pat to play for a little bit. So a few options there. I expect Derrick Jones Jr. and Tony Bradley to see increased minutes for sure. You're going to need those guys. There's really no other options here. Kobe White is still recovering. Ayo Dosunmu is going to see some more run for sure, which I think a lot of Bulls fans should be excited about. We're going to try to find silver linings in this crappy situation. So more minutes for Ayo, more minutes for Javonte, potentially seeing Derrick Jones Jr. out there would be great. And the way that I look at this is kind of like, I know a lot of people are asking about trades right now and free agents, and free agents, maybe the Bulls waive Matt Thomas and go out and try to find a free agent big. That's a possibility. As far as trades are concerned, I think what we're looking at here is, we're still a month away or so, could be less, from Kobe White coming back from his injury. I think we're going to have to kind of ride the storm until Kobe White is back. And at that point, once you have that bench scoring, you have another body to give minutes to, another talented player to give minutes to, then you could start to look at, okay, maybe we can trade Derrick Jones Jr. We still have that trade exception from the Daniel Tice trade. Just need another guy off the bench, another scoring guard off the bench prior to pulling the trigger on maybe going and acquiring, another wing or another big. So I wouldn't expect any major moves coming this week. I would expect it to be closer to the trade deadline, or perhaps just when Kobe White returns from his injury. And that's Pat. I'll say it again. It really sucks to see a kid so young losing a year of his development. I was seeing some really good things from him in the last couple games. Just disappointed, sad. I'm sure you guys are too. We can recap the Knicks game real quick. Obviously, more bad news. Bulls lost. Close one though. They came back in the end. It was a tough game defensively. The Knicks were attacking in transition, and they were shooting the ball really well in their half-court sets. Kemba Walker was having a good game. Evan Fournier had a good game. Julius Randle, not so much. Kind of choked at the end there and almost gave us the game, but still gave some work earlier. Bulls bench was out-hustled, outscored. Like I mentioned about Kobe White just a second ago, the Bulls bench desperately needs a scoring boost. We should not be looking to trade Kobe White, which, mind you, once again, with all the trade rumors, these players can't be traded while they're hurt, while they're injured. So Kobe White and Patrick Williams are not going anywhere, and we don't have any other trade assets aside from Derrick Jones Jr. So just keep that in mind. We kind of need Derrick Jones Jr. right now until Kobe's back. But I digress. But the Bulls bench is lacking scoring desperately. So Kobe White coming back will be huge for that. I think we need to keep our expectations tempered about the trade return for a guy who didn't necessarily have the greatest sophomore season and is now coming off an injury. I saw someone tweet me today that Kobe White's value has never been higher than it is right now. Wrong. Very wrong. Not true at all. The highest value that he's ever had was at the end of the shortened season, right after that crazy game he had in February or whatever it was. That was the highest his trade value has ever been. We were so hyped coming into the next season. Didn't pan out, unfortunately. But no, Kobe White should be here to stay for at least this season. Once again, trades are not going to be easy to come by for this team this season, but with Kobe White, he's still on that rookie contract. If you wanted to trade him, probably do it in the off season, not during the season. Or during next season at the trade deadline to get even more time out of him. There's really no incentive to trade him right this second because you're not getting a big return. There's not enough salary to match it for another star. And just, he still could be useful. Okay, so I digress, though. Once again, I keep getting off track with the Knicks bench unit looking really good against the Bulls bench unit. Derrick Rose, you guys know him. Taj Gibson, you guys know him. They were giving us some buckets, giving us some work. Patrick Williams, obviously, he left like at the beginning of the third, but he was putting together a good stretch in the second. And I even tweeted, I'm like, losing Patrick Williams might hurt more than people realize. And I think we're going to have to reckon with that now as we go forward in the season. But it was definitely obvious in the game. Once he left in that third quarter, the Knicks went on a huge scoring run. It felt like at the beginning of the quarter when Patrick Williams was in, it felt like we had a chance. And then the Knicks just ran away with the third quarter and really didn't look back until the very end of the game. I wanted to mention that Lonzo actually had some really good sequences playing defense against Randall. Caruso did not. Caruso just too short. He was giving up bunnies. But with Lonzo, his height, his IQ, his active hands, he was giving Randall fits. And I think that's something that we need to address. Lonzo plays like a wing, guys. We've been talking about this, but Lonzo plays like a wing. He has interior defensive potential. Just a lot to be said about the defense from Lonzo and Caruso. Caruso was playing really, really well on their guards all night. And same thing with Troy Brown Jr. Troy Brown Jr. had a really good game overall, I think, defensively, especially. There were a few plays where I feel like if we didn't have a guy like Troy Brown Jr. or a guy like Alex Caruso, we wouldn't have a defense. So those guys are super important. The Bulls ended up making a late push, even though they had trailed for most of the game. Zach LaVine, despite that thumb injury, looked good. He looked like Zach LaVine. He said after the game that it's painful, but it's doable. And it looked doable. He was doing his thing. They almost brought us back to win the game. DeRozan had kind of an open look there at the end. He pump faked, missed the shot. And that was the game. The Bulls were down by 1 and they lost by 1. A valiant effort at the end to claw back. I think last season that would have just been a fat L midway through the fourth, and that would have been that. This team, no quitting them. They kept fighting, and I give them a ton of credit. Something I want to mention with DeRozan, there were a couple plays where I noticed his sneakers were slippery, and it happened on 2 separate plays at the end. The Knicks were inbounding the ball. The Bulls had to foul, but they had a bad pass. I forgot who passed it, but it was a bad pass, and it got away from DeRozan for a second, and it almost went out of bounds, and he went to go retrieve it from out of bounds, and it turns out his foot slipped over the out of bounds line, but it didn't need to. He would have been able to corral it without that slip. It just looked like he planted his foot and then lost traction. And then same thing on that final shot. It looked like he went up for that pump fake, lost traction, and it affected his shot. There was just a little bit of a slip to his shoes. I'm not going to read into it or anything. There's no conspiracy. Just something worth noting. I feel like it wasn't just him missing. It wasn't just him, biffing that ball, that loose ball, trying to get it inbounds. I think genuinely he was affected by whatever was causing his shoes to slip around. So no excuses though. The refs weren't great. It is what it is. The Knicks, I feel like, got away with a bunch of calls. At the end of the game, the Bulls had a chance and they weren't able to win it. In my opinion, I feel like that ball should have gone to Zach. I feel like he was having a really good game. But that said, DeRozan saved our asses in Toronto. So I'm also not totally opposed to him taking that shot because he's proven it. He's done it many times in his career. So it's a feeling out experience for this team. It's an educational experience for everybody. This is their first loss. They didn't lose in the preseason. They haven't lost yet in the regular season until last night. So definitely a learning moment for everybody to learn, from this loss, what to take away from it. In terms of energy, defense, making sure that they're still running their offense even when things are breaking down. And the Knicks were playing incredible defense, blitzing the ball handler, specifically Zach LaVine. But when they do that, you're going to pretty much always, if you're going to blitz Zach LaVine, create an open opportunity for a guy like Nikola Vucevic, who can pop it from anywhere on the floor. So there are ways, and I think the Bulls managed that in the fourth a little bit better than they did earlier in the game. But with all that said, came up short in the end. Things to learn from. I still love this team. Still love the fight. Still love the heart. Still love the talent. Losing Patrick Williams absolutely sucks and ruined my day. But this is a next man up mentality kind of team as it is. Knock on wood, thank God. It's not one of our all-stars. As much as I love Patrick Williams and think he's important to the team, I do think that there is a way to replace the output that he was giving you. It's going to take a little bit of lineup management and rotation management, but it's doable. So things are not ideal today, but they're not the worst they've ever been. Guys, this is not last season. Things are still above and beyond better than they were a year ago. Just hope Patrick Williams has a speedy, full recovery. And that is the news of the day. Bulls play again tomorrow. Utah Jazz, big game. I'll be looking for another big performance from our stars. Thank you guys for watching this video. I look forward to speaking with you after the Jazz game, and we will talk very soon.